Hey everybody, Kevin here with another episode for you of the Real Estate Without Renters podcast. Thank you as always for listening to the show and also share it with a friend. So whether you're a part of a meetup group, a mastermind group, real estate investment club, any kind of investment club, please share the show. I do appreciate that. And as the show gets to grow, I get to do more and more of these of you and bring on more interesting guests. I do have a guest for you today as well. Before I get into that and introduce you, just want to remind you, if you're in the Orlando area and you want to attend a self-directed IRA event with New View Trust, I believe it's open to the public, certainly is if you're a client of New View Trust. They do self-directed IRAs, 401ks, you name it. And this is their final event of the year. I'm going to be speaking there for about 30 minutes or so. There's only two speakers, myself and Richard Hilson. And he'll be talking about some alternative investments as well. But this is predominantly a networking event. And that's very, very important, as my guest will allude to as well. Very important that you network, surround yourself with people. But events like this also bring people who have a lot of money sitting on the sidelines. Where do we invest it? And they're looking for alternatives. That's why they're at a self-directed IRA type of company. And the two most popular alternatives are real estate and real estate notes. So these are fantastic events to get to. On this one, again, you can go to their website, New View Trust, and look up live events or Google search that. And if you do attend, just make sure you come by and say hello. I'd love to meet you and talk with you as well. We'll also talk about an event coming up in February. So February 24th and 25th in Anaheim, California, where we got our Noteworthy Investor Summit for 2023. This is a 16th annual event, and it's always a good one. Out in California, I've already got some emails from people saying, hey, when's the event? Just want to confirm. So we'll talk more about that with my guest as well. So my guest is he is a CEO of Odell Barnes REO. So he's got a specialty in real estate investing. He is also the co-owner of NoteWorthy USA, and which obviously I'm a participant in everything that they do there. It's focused on real estate and real estate notes. So a couple of big companies there in our industry, but he's also a type of person who is very big on masterminds, goal setting, and I thought it'd be a great guest for us to have on this time of year when so many people are focused on how did I do this year? What am I doing next year? What can I do to get better? How can I take advantage of the time in December? And I think it's an interesting topic. So please, everybody, welcome Ben Fredricks. Hey, Ben.
Good to see you, buddy.
It's good.
Thanks for having me on.
Good to be seen. Oh, it's a pleasure. I know you do participate in mastermind groups and get a lot out of those. And I was hoping you maybe could share with my audience some things that they might want to do to, I don't know if it's getting off the sidelines for some people or taking it to the next level or breaking out and starting to learn how to really network with people properly to grow their businesses, anything like that. But what are some of the things that you've been focused on or can recommend to people in my audience?
I think the biggest thing anybody has to focus on is just taking massive action. I mean, it doesn't matter whether or not you're like new to this game or you've been doing it for a while. If you've been doing it for a while, like you have the danger of getting into lulls, right? Like where you're just like comfortable, and you can't get comfortable right now because a lot is changing in our world every single day. That's nothing new. That's just been the way it is since the beginning of time. But so you have to consistently be evolving. And as you start to take action, I mean, most people, they go to, you and I both see this. I mean, we've done several events together where people will come to the event and then we might see them again in 6 months or a year and ask them like, hey, how's it going? Are you making some, progress?
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't. And I'm always, I feel bad for that because I don't know what is missing for them to not be able to take action. If it's not a clear enough why as to why they're executing, if it's a fear of failure. But, I think the thing that gets over fear of failure is just moving forward and taking action. You are going to fail. Mm-hmm. So that's the biggest thing I've learned from masterminds. Like, you are going to screw up. You are going to not get something right. It's not going to be perfect. But as long as you're taking consistent, massive action, that's the biggest thing that kind of helps. When I first started, the first Noteworthy event I actually went to, I knew nothing about notes really. I mean, I was just underwriting them. Like I knew how to underwrite a borrower, but like what all you guys were doing and talking about, like, oh, we're buying this, we're restructuring, we're non-performing, we're doing all this. I had no clue what any of that meant.
Mhm.
But what I did do was I would take just a copious amount of notes, and then I would go home and just start executing on one or two things, not 20 things, just like one or two, and getting those dialed in, and then creating a system for it, and then moving to the next thing. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but I think what's holding people back from achieving more is just not taking action on the things that they're learning.
Yeah, it's a couple of things that you said there that struck me recently. I've had conversations with people, and there is an attitude amongst some people. I've even had conversations with them about my program and things like that, and say, "Well, I'm just going to wait until next year. I'm just gonna wait, get past the holidays, and move into next year." And on the one hand, I get that people get overwhelmed this time of year, and there's a lot of things going on. Stress levels have a tendency to go up. But I'm sitting there at the same time going, there's going to be times during this holiday when you're going to want to get away for an hour or two, want to pour your brain into something new and learn this now so you're ready to start in January. Because I'm always looking at, gosh, if you wait till January, you're also going to be, well, January, I'm catching up from February or from December. And now, now
Yep.
we're looking at February. And then by the time you get going, it's March. It's kind of like, gosh, if you just took and carved out, and maybe that's part of the key, is you make it into bite-sized pieces. You don't feel overwhelmed, like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready to take on this whole thing about notes, like you just mentioned. You didn't try to learn everything about notes in one day, 1 week, 1 month. It's kind of bite-sized pieces. I mean, I in my training courses, I break everything down to about an hour and 15 minutes, because that's about what people can handle. But certainly, for those who do want to get started, whether it's notes or IRAs or investing, whatever you do. Predominantly, of course, I have real estate and real estate note investors, but this is a really good time of year to do that and at least tap into the educational side. Inventories might be a different story. I talked about this recently as well. I want to hear what your thoughts are on inventory levels, inventory for both real estate and notes. Now, obviously, I'm predominantly on the note side, and we saw just a bunch of activity, a bunch of closings in the first couple of months of December, but we're also now towards almost that second half and final half, or the ending, I should say, of December. And I do expect a slowdown in inventory and transactions done at this point in time. But I think by January, we're going to start seeing some big numbers again. What are you seeing on your end?
Yeah. One thing that I was just I was in a mastermind group a couple of months ago, and one of the challenges across the room, and there was about 150 investors in there from all over the country, predominantly wholesalers. So not a lot of people in the note space, from what it is that we do, but it's a good barometer for like what's going on in the market. So a lot of wholesalers are able to get deals under contract right now, but they are not able to dispo them. They're not able to sell them. So they're having to go back and cut for deeper discounts. So that's a good indicator for what's going on in the market, that, the investors, the people that are buying those deals, are putting their hands up and saying, it's not a good deal.
Yeah.
So, or I'm saying, let me take a pause. They're doing one of two things. I'm taking a pause, or they're saying that with the way the market's going right now, I need to buy it deeper and at a better discount. So I think if you're in the note space like that, and let's say, for instance, if you're a note creator, like I am, like I'm taking that information and that feeling that's in the market. And when we're bidding on property, we have to take that into account. So most of our stuff that we sell on seller financing. We're selling to an occupant. So it's a little bit different, but it's not. It's still the same. I still have to buy it at the right price, right? Especially if I want to sell that note down the road. So I have to anticipate that values might come down a little bit.
Right.
So, I think that's the one trend that I've noticed over the last 6 months from a lot of my colleagues that are in one of my mastermind groups, is that if you're in this space, you want to be buying deeper, however you can. And you mentioned something there before, Kevin, that I thought was really interesting, where you talk about like, look, during the holiday season, you're not always going to want to be with your family and, you got to have an escape. And a mentor of mine, one of my coaches, he always calls the holiday season, instead of calling it the holiday season, he calls it separation season. So think of the things that you can learn right now while everybody else is taking a break. Like they're chilling, they're hanging out with their families, and they might be going the Clark Griswold route where they're going nuts for it. But if you can actually learn something that gives you a springboard into the new year right now, like that's one of the best things that you can do, because you'll have momentum while everybody else is trying to catch it with their resolutions.
Right. Yeah. So when this inventory wrinkle does get passed, which I think it will, because I've seen that same thing, and I would give an example. So I see a lot of notes cross my desk every day, and I had someone bring a note to me, and it was a note, I don't know, Michigan, Ohio, doesn't matter, but I noticed that the note seller was in Arizona. And because of reasons that you said, if property values dip, we want to create a note that's sellable without a discount, that sort of thing. I'm on the other end a lot of times looking at those notes and going, they didn't create a good quality note here because they didn't, anticipate this, that, or the other. And this note came in, and the guy who created this note did my two-note solution, which is in my book, and I talk about from time to time at the events. And I'm like, oh, this person either has been to my training, or they know my friend out in Arizona who has a big meetup out there and networking. And I even called my friend out there, and he said, no, I don't know that person. But the good news is, the word's getting out. And what they did was they say, okay, this is the market that we're in, but there's always a creative solution to that. So one of the solutions that I saw this time, and I'm anticipating seeing some additional ones. In fact, I've been talking to note creators as well, and saying it may be time to implement more of the two-note solution, which is, by the way, for those who aren't familiar, you create two notes. So you've got a $100,000 property you're selling. If you created one $90,000 note, you're probably only going to get $72,000 for that note because of investment to value reasons, where investors are saying, I don't want to be in this thing for any more than about 72 cents of what the property's worth in case we see dips. Versus, why not create a $70,000 note and a $30,000 or $25,000 note? We'll assume there's a $5,000 down payment in there, and you sell the first and you keep the second. And it's a great way to avoid that discount, because I'm looking at buying the first. I'm already in it for less than $70,000 because you created a $70,000 note. So again, there are techniques and there are things that we can do without this, but that that goes back to preparedness and understanding that, and seeing what these new techniques and brushing up on your skills. It's a good time of year, I think, to do that.
It's so funny too, because I remember when we were at the national convention back in September, I guess that was. You were talking about the two-note solution.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in the back of the room. Here I am, like 5-6 years into the note game, and I'm still learning something. And I was like, Jesus, why didn't I think of this? I was in the mortgage business doing 80/20s all the time, and I'm just like, why was I never thinking about that? And sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees because you're just so ingrained in the business. But that's the point of continuing your education and getting into these groups or these events where somebody's going to bring an idea and you're like, God, that's so simple. And I didn't even think about it, and yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it is. That happens to everybody, myself included. We're like, well, duh, it's right there. It's so simple. But until somebody points it out and you're kind of ready for that information, it's kind of like, oh.
Yeah, but it's only simple if you know the skill to buy that deal right, right? Like, especially if you're acquiring the deal and then you're creating the note, you have to know how to do that properly and how to underwrite the deal. And if you don't know that, then you kind of miss out on the back end of owning a free second. Like that's magical right there. Free cash flow. It's like,
And by the way, I'm talking with Ben Fredricks, and Ben, owns Odell Barnes REO. He also owns Noteworthy, and we do have a Noteworthy event coming up here. So go to noteworthyusa.com, look for live events, click on the Note Investor Summit, and it's going to be out in Anaheim, California, Friday, February 24th, Saturday, the 25th, and that is a 9 to 5 p.m. event. So we keep them a little shorter, a little tighter, but it's all information. Any special guests you can share with us, or not ready to disclose who all's going to be there?
I've got a few, and I'm going to keep it a little bit tight, but I can tell you that this event I'm really, really stoked for. First of all, I always love going back to California. So that's like that place that we're going is one of my favorite places to go. It's like right next to Disneyland, and good food, and the whole deal. And we know we have a lot of friends out in California that always come out. So, but this particular event, like Kevin said, I mean, it's going to be highly, highly tactical. So I have a friend that is going to be doing an absolute masterclass. Like, he's going to take 2 hours to teach people how to raise private money. And I'm telling you, like, if there is no excuse, this guy helped me raise millions of dollars to buy deals. Like, if I hadn't known him, actually I met him at a different Note event. If I hadn't made that connection, God only knows like where I would be. I would, I've had, because of the skill that he taught me in the last, 3 months, I've been able to fully fund a portfolio of rentals that I just bought. I mean, it was easy. And so he's going to come out and teach the same strategies and how he's built a multi-million-dollar fund and done thousands of deals. So that's just a taste. And of course, you're going to have our boy, Kevin Shortell, dropping his knowledge as always. And, so I think it's a great event. It's one of my favorites, is the summit. So, and I'm excited for it. It's always a lot of anxiety, up until the event to get everything ready. And it's a lot of work, but when we're there, I'm so in the pocket moment of like getting to hang out with everybody. And again, I always tell this to people when I'm there, I'm as big of a student as you. It's the whole reason I got involved in Noteworthy, is so I could be at like almost like in the front of the class learning. So it'll be fun.
Yeah. And raising capital is such an important part of this. And eventually the people who, if you're new to note investing and you're buying a note here and there, and your goal is just to do that, great. Maybe raising capital isn't the most important thing, but what note investors and real estate investors learn pretty early on, for those who really want to continue on with it and grow something special, I'm going to need some capital, and it's important skill to have and to do that. So I'm looking forward to hearing that myself there. But really good event. And I think I know the place you're talking about now, outside of Disney area there. And it's been a while since we've been back there, and that should be
since before the pandemic. Yeah, that was the last time we were there.
And they always, you get tickets early, everybody. Not only is it help in planning these events and preparing for it, because gosh, there's so many different details on how to put these things together. And the whole crew's been working on it already. So the earlier you register, the better. And you also get a discount on the tickets. So check out the website, Noteworthy USA, and look up that event for us. Speaking of inventory, you've got on Odell's website, you have inventory there that people can look at, or?
Yeah, so we always have fresh inventory from auction. These are usually, just so your audience knows, like these are going to be like C-level assets, but they're great assets for creating notes on, because there's usually, we buy them at the right discount to where you can go in and do 2.5 to 3x what the property was bought for, and it still makes sense on the deal. I've been selling a lot of seller financing deals to investors recently. So a lot of people that are wanting to get in the game of investing and may not have capital, they don't have that particular skill of raising it, but they have the know-how to go in and fix stuff. That's one thing I don't have, and why we've never done it. I don't have the know-how to design anything or fix anything, or I don't want to manage contractors and that whole aspect. But one of my favorite emails that I got literally just a couple of weeks ago, I'll share this quick story. So when we first started doing this, one of my first deals that we had was in Detroit, and this young kid ended up buying the deal from us. and on seller financing. It was going to be like his first rental property. And so over the years, like he's bought a couple more deals here and there. And I messaged him, and he was finalizing a deal with us in November. And I just asked him, I was like, how many rentals do you have now? And he's like, I have 12 rental houses now. He's like, you completely changed my life. And I hadn't even realized that he'd done that many deals with us over the last 5-6 years. And that was like my favorite thing ever. So, you know, these are great opportunities for people that are like, hey, I just got to get my foot in the door and like really learn and understand how this works. And then that's exactly what we did. And then just figured out how to scale it up. So, but you can go to odellbarnesreo.com and peruse our inventory there. We always have new deals coming out, and you can buy deals for cash, or we'll seller finance.
Right. And I'll put the links, everybody, in the description on the video for you. The video I'll post up on my YouTube channel. The audio only is going to go out on the podcast. So for those who are listening audio only, and you're interested in taking a look at these properties, and that's what they are on the Odell Barnes website, ODELL Barnes, BARNESREO.com is the place to go. And this is for people who are interested. And I know that some of my listeners do have this interest where you want to buy real estate and turn around and sell it with financing. You're creating a note for greater than what you're into the property. And that can include anywhere from, industry wide, anywhere from no renovation to some renovation to a lot of renovation. It depends how your business model is going to work and the particulars on a deal. But that's been, I think, one of the most successful business models over the last year. If I were to look at it, maybe the last 2 years of people getting more into that side of it, and probably people on that side of it waking up to the note side a little bit more too, and just, saying, hey, I can finance, I can make these numbers work if I have a liquid market where I can sell these assets and then sell the notes at that point in time. And then I think the awareness became, well, you can, but you're going to sell them at a discount unless you create the notes the proper way, and that's what we're definitely seeing more of. And I think we're both of like mind on this, where it's really the combination of real estate and real estate notes that I think will prepare people for no matter what the future has in mind here, whether the economy gets worse, whether it gets better, whether it levels out. If you're educated, have access to capital, have access to inventory, real estate note knowledge is going to be the thing that is going to keep most people safe and making continued good returns. Would you agree?
Of course. Yeah. And I think you have to be able to pivot. So, we've certainly had to do that. I mean, we had a good bull run the last 5 or 6 years where you're really just used to, the phone rings off the hook and like people are wanting to buy stuff for cash. That slows down. And it's like, okay, we're now and my mentor Odell told me this was coming. He's like, at some point, it's going to pivot to a seller finance market where you're going to be creating a lot of notes. So you tool up during the time when you're doing cash deals, and then during the slower time, which is not necessarily slower, it's just a different transaction, is all you come into the note space a little bit more, and and that's fine too. I mean, we're good with both. I mean, who doesn't love cash flow? So
yeah, it happens not only in our industry, everybody, but when you think about it, and I know this for personal experience too, is even the regular, more traditional real estate agent business model. If you were to look at that, when things are easy and all you have to do is list a property, somebody else sells it, it's easy money. Anybody can do that job, if you will, being a real estate agent. When the market turns, boy, it's interesting to see statistically how many people just fall out of that business, but because they genuinely didn't have good sales skill. They didn't have all the peripherals that make up a good real estate agent. And when things get tough, man, the dropout is just crazy because, they don't have the full skill set to that. So again, to parallel with this business, just going into real estate without some some note knowledge, again, you're going to set yourself up for a particular time in the economy. You're going to be struggling. Other people get in the note business and don't understand the value side of real estate and what happens if we take property back. Same thing. So being well-rounded in this is important to have that overall understanding and knowledge base, which never stops, by the way. I still do Zooms for my client only every other Wednesday night. And that's really the way I continue the education for everybody, from what's working now versus when I pre-recorded some things. So it's constantly something that you're refining, but boy, it does pay off when the economy comes up with a change. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Right. What else is going on in your world there? Anything else you can share with us?
Yeah, just getting ready for the new year. I've been working on goals and, setting stuff up already since like the tail end of November, and, just trying to get myself in prime working shape to hit the ground running as we go into the new year. So it's an exciting time. I'm always refreshed by a new year. I don't know about you, but like, it's sad when one's ending and you think, God, it just was here in a flash. And you kind of have to realize that that's the way life goes, right? It goes quicker the older we get. So we have to like really accelerate the pace in which we want to hit our targets. And, so we do a lot of different kinds of planning in our house. Obviously we do our own family planning, and, that's a whole thing. And we do business planning. And so, but the planning part, everybody can come up with a plan. It's the execution part that is the biggest challenge. And I think that's for everybody.
Yeah.
So, but I like to start executing on stuff late in the year so that I'm already doing it when I'm hitting the new year. I'm not just starting to execute. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, it's not even related to business, but even in fitness, like in November, I started like really tooling up on my fitness, like getting it, because I knew the holidays were coming. I knew I was going to eat like crap. And it's just so easy to like fall down the slope, with mom's cookies and all the good dinners and everything, the drinking and the cocktails and everything else. So I really had to like say, all right, I know this is coming. Let me start tooling up and getting that on point. So I hired a trainer, and I'm literally in the last 2 months, like I've put on muscle. I'm feeling strong and good. Yeah. And so, and that's the same thing. It's like for anything, it doesn't matter if it's fitness, if it's your personal or business goals, start getting them together now. Because if you wait until January 1st, you're already behind somebody else. Like they're coming to take your lunch.
Yeah. Well, you just struck a chord with me, because I just found out earlier today I've been invited to go speak in Cancun in March, end of March, beginning of April. So I'm like, I gotta get in shape. It's gonna be a lot of activities and stuff like that. I'm like, oh boy, all right, set that goal. I gotta start getting into shape here.
What event is that? Maybe we should take Noteworthy to Mexico.
Oh yeah.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. So it's it'll be good. So I just found that out. That's the first thing I thought of, like, oh boy, I gotta get back in some kind of shape here. Walking alone doesn't cut it.
Well, truth be told, I'm also going to Mexico in March, not to speak. Yeah, I'm going on vacation. And I was like, I gotta get to this point.
Very good. Hey, whatever motivates you, everybody. And speaking of which, I know we can get you motivated to sharpen up your skills in the note business and the real estate business, and really connect with a lot of people doing the actual business in the industry in Anaheim. Once again, just go to NoteWorthy USA, NoteWorthyUSA.com, and you'll see right about in the middle of your screen, it says events. Just click on events. The next upcoming event is out in California, February 24th and 25th in Anaheim. All the details are there for you. I'll be there. Ben's going to be there. We always have great speakers, and can't say enough about the event we just had in Orlando. Had some new speakers we hadn't had before and share new information. It was really good event, and I'm sure this one will be even better, as we always try to continue to make these great events for you. And again, if you're in Orlando, check with NewView. Just go to NewView Trust, and same thing, look up their live events. And if you come by to that event, just make sure you say hello. Again, I'm only speaking for 30 minutes, so don't come just to meet me. Think of it in terms of networking and finding people with capital And again, I want to thank Ben Fredricks, everybody, for coming on and sharing some info with us. Thanks again, Ben. Do appreciate it.
Thanks, Kev. Hey, by the way, if I was going to make a special offer for your audience, if they want to come out to the event in California, if they go to the checkout and enter in the promo code Holiday30 in all caps, Holiday30, they'll get 30% off their ticket. So if you want to put that in the show notes,
Holiday30. Thank you. Forgot about that. Holiday30 on the code there on checkout, everybody. And also, if you want to listen to Ben's Noteworthy podcast as well, he's got a wide range of guests on there. I think your next one's on taxation.
That's correct. We just
which is another topic. Everybody waits until April
right.
to think about that. It's like, nah, you want to get set now before April. But
yeah, we just
had
that. A great friend of mine on who's a CPA talking about taxes, and he specializes for real estate investors. So it's a great listen. Y'all should check it out.
Excellent. Where do they find that? Anywhere podcast?
If you just look on iTunes or Spotify and look up Noteworthy USA, you will find my smiling face right there.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks, Ben. Do appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for listening to the podcast. And again, if you can share it with a friend, we do appreciate that and look forward to talking to you in the near future. Thank you very much. And we'll be talking to you soon. Bye now.